There's at least 3 things that everybody knows about a high-lift jack. They're handy, they're dangerous, and you can't jack more than 40 inches in the air, right? I mean, that's it. Wrong. Here's something I figured out when I was modifying this part of my shop about 6 years ago. Run it down, take a piece of steel tubing or a pipe. This is 1.5 inches by 3. Slide it down onto the jacking mechanism. And go ahead with caution. You see that? Now, I don't know what the functional limit is, and I don't have this straight up and down, but if this piece of tubing was 12 feet long, you could jack 14 feet in the air. That's handy. And it can't tip over because it's constrained inside of the tube. So, you know, within the limits of what a high-lift jack will lift, that's pretty good. I've used that a few times, and I'm always glad when I do it. So we did a video on high-lift jacks a long time ago. But today I'd like to show you a few more ways that this thing punches above its weight, some of the things to watch out for, some of the things to think about when you're trying to get some work done with a tool that is really suited for getting work done if you keep an eye on it. So a high-lift jack is about the only jack you can tell me about that'll lift the load and move it sideways. Let's see how we do. The trailer is not quite in the right spot. It needs to go up, and it needs to go over. Keeping a good hand on the jack so it doesn't snap up and break all the teeth out of my jaw. Look at that. So it's just going over and almost down. There we go. Look at that. One jack, vertical, lateral. So we've established that this thing will lift things much higher than we thought. We've established that it will lift things and move them laterally over and set them down. And we're about to establish that this thing looks like a jack, but it's actually a come-along. So maybe let's just imagine that we get stuck sometime, or a trailer is down slightly over the bank, and you don't have a come-along, but you've got a high-lift jack in the back of the truck and 2 chains. Well, you can get a hold of something pretty heavy and pull it with a high-lift jack. But before you do that, let me just show you how this mechanism, which is pretty simple, works. And it's only simple until you don't know how to work it, and then it will drive you crazy. You got to oil this every once in a while. Now, obviously, I don't clean it. Yeah, that's me. But this changes the direction of operation. Boom, you push that up, and now it's going to lift. It will also run up. You can drag it up vertically to pick up space when it's in this position. Now it will do a controlled descent. And if you adjust the handle just right, it will fall down uncontrolled if there's no load on it. In this case, we want to lift. Let's see how hard we got to pull on this handle to slide that 3,500-pound trailer forward. We have a launch, Houston. Not a heavy drag. Now, if this trailer was loaded and up on its tires, we could slide that too. I'm pulling down at the ground because I don't want to bend that jack stand. And then we let it down. Hold on to the handle because it'll whack you. Like that. 2 hands on this handle is not a bad rule of thumb until you get used to the whole situation. Now this, from my perspective, is kind of an ideal way to get a hold of that foot. And from my perspective, this is a better way to get a hold of the top of the jack than the factory piece of sheet metal. But full disclosure, I had to drill out this top hole to get a 5/8 pin to go through it.
Now, I mentioned this at the beginning of this video, but this example captures maybe the most satisfying example of putting a piece of tubing on top of a jack and raising something heavy up safely. Secret Weapon Dave and I put this beam overhead, and it would have been much harder without a high lift jack. And besides that, even though a HiLift does not lift as much as a hydraulic jack. It lifts smaller, lesser weights much faster in odd positions. It doesn't really care what kind of footing it's sitting on. It will get a lot of weight up in the air in a hurry, including pulling out T-posts, right? I mean, it's a problem wrestling a T-post out of the ground unless you've got one of these little sort of binding mechanical contrivances so a chain will get a hold of the post real good, and a HiLift jack, post comes right out.
So those are a few of the ways that you can use a HiLift jack, and you probably have examples of others. If you do, put it in the comments. But before I sign off on this, I want to make sure that you heard me say that when you put the force on that handle and you are using mechanical advantage to leverage a big bad weight up over there, anytime that handle gets away from you before that dog engages, it will hurt you. It will hurt you bad. It will break your jaw. It'll fracture your skull. It'll lose some teeth. So don't overlook the way that a suspended load, that leverage, whether it's in finance or mechanical advantage or any kind of work environment, leverage will get work done and leverage will hurt you. So if you get a chance, keep your head out of the way and 2 hands on the handle. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.